Hello and a very warm welcome to this digital conversation on Digital Indonesia, co-hosted by the UK-ASEAN Business Council, the Indonesia Investment and Promotion Centre in London, and the Indonesian Embassy in the UK. To lead today's discussion, we have Baroness Neville Rolfe, Chair of the UK-ASEAN Business Advisory Council, and we are honoured to have Mr. Odo Manohutu, Deputy Coordinating Minister for Tourism and Creative Economy, to deliver a keynote address along with a fantastic lineup of speakers, including Astri Wahyuni, Vice President of Public Policy and Government Relations at Tokopedia, Bernie Mustafa, VP Public Policy and Government Relations at Gojek, and Stephen Marcelino, ASEAN Capital Market Lead at Accenture UK. I'm Alan Lai with the UK-ABC based in Brunei. I have a couple of notes to highlight before we begin. Firstly, we would also love to hear your thoughts and questions and invite you to post your comments in the question box on the right-hand side of the screen, and our chair will pass them on to the panel. Secondly, if you are on Twitter, do tag us at UK-ASEAN, also at IIPC London and at KBRI London, and please use the hashtag UK-ASEAN. And now to lead us through a digital discussion on Digital Indonesia, I'll hand over the session to our chair. Baroness Neville Rolfe has had 3 careers in politics, in business and in the civil service. A former UK business minister and board director for Tesco, Baroness Neville Rolfe is now an active peer in the House of Lords and is passionate about Indonesia and all things digital. Baroness Neville Rolfe, over to you in the UK.
Thank you, Alan, very much. And good morning to those of you who are in Europe, and good evening to those of you who are in Indonesia and elsewhere. As Alan says, I have great passion for the region. I also have a great passion for Indonesia. I've only visited once, but I was struck by the vibrance and growth of the country and the wonderful cultural heritage reflecting the many different islands that Indonesia is created from. And if you get the chance, visit the Jakarta Museum with its wonderful gold work from all the islands. I think welcome everyone, and a special thank you to the Indonesian Investment and Promotion Centre, the equivalent of Indonesia's Department for International Trade, and our friends at the Indonesian Embassy in London, great friends to us, for co-hosting today's events, which will finish at by about 9:55. We chose the digital theme for today and have a number of outcomes that we hope to achieve. So first, perhaps most important for the audience, what are the opportunities with Indonesia's digital economy? Second, how can UK strengths in technology and in education help develop Indonesia's digital industry? There must be a partnership to be had. Thirdly, what are the obstacles to growth? They can be many different things, from economic to regulatory and cultural matters. And how can these be overcome? And finally, can technology help us to achieve inclusive growth so that remote parts of Indonesia can benefit, and indeed so that there's a positive impact right across ASEAN? Our first speaker today is Odo Manohutu, who is, of course, the government minister, coordinator for tourism and the creative economy, and based in Jakarta. He is a career civil servant and for many years served in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with postings to the UN in New York. He studied at Oxford, he studied at the Fletcher School at Tufts and Harvard, and of course has wonderful English, French and Indonesian. Pak Odo, are you here for your keynote address?
Can you hear me?
Yes, beautifully.
All right, thank you. Sorry, so there are 2 video conference. One is with my minister on the other room, and now here. So my apologies. So we are now in Banyuwangi. It's a town about 2 hours flight from Jakarta, and the reason that we are having the meeting in Banyuwangi is to reactivate tourism industry in Indonesia, starting from Banyuwangi. So thank you again, Baroness and colleagues, for organizing this event. And I think this is a good opportunity for us to introduce a bit of our policy in relation to tourism and creative economy. Now, next slide. Next slide. Yes, so these are what we see, the 6 main issues that are challenging in Indonesia in terms of the digital economy. First is the internet penetrations. Us is around 64%, and in comparison to other ASEAN countries, is quite low. But then you have to understand that the size of Indonesia, it's from London to it's equivalent to from London to Moscow, and on top of that, it's dispersed around 17,504 islands. And from those islands, only around 30% are inhabited. So this is one of the challenge. Second is the key issue is cybersecurity and privacy. It's relatively low. Nowadays, we have a policy, a government regulation, regulation that is now being discussed in the parliament, and soon it will be announced. And third is the lack of digital talent for industrial needs. And these are, I think, Ibu Asri from Tokopedia can elaborate a little bit on that. And this is one of the reasons that, yes, we are moving very fast with the startup, with the digital economy, but what is lagging in our case is the more investment in digital in the digital industry. That's why the Minister for Education, Pak Nadiem, who was also the chair of Gojek, the largest unicorn in Asia, he put a lot of emphasis on vocational training, on digital, how to use the internet. And thanks to COVID-19, I should not say thanks to COVID-19, that speed up the process of using digital. So nowadays in Indonesia, a lot of the students now are using digital to access a lot of online education. And the last one, I think I think my camera, can you see me correctly? So
we can.
I'm well.
You're quite dark, Pak Odo. You're quite dark,
Right.
but we can.
How about this?
Yeah, it's because the window is behind, I think, but that's better. We can now see your face.
All right, thank you. I'm wearing this traditional Banyuwangi hat, so we have to wear it on official visit to this the town. And the challenge, I think, this will be the 4th and 5th and 6th. I think, especially number 4, that will be related to what our colleague from Gojek and Tokopedia will say, and how do you onboard, how do you introduce the digital economy to more of the SMEs? So there are around 64 million SMEs in Indonesia. From the 64 million SMEs, we are only around 8 million who are already on board to the e-commerce platform. Now, on the 14th of May this year, the president announced a movement to increase the number of SMEs to use the digital platform from 8 million to 10 million. So we have 2 million. We are targeting 2 million new offline SMEs to be online. And so far, the target is until the end of the year two additional SMEs on board. Now we already reached 1.1 million. So I think we can reach more than 2 million new SMEs to be on board on the digital platform. So this is a good progress. How do we do it? I think there are two key issues. First is the leadership, and this is we have the leadership of President Joko Widodo. And second, I think this is one of the key elements that we are progressing so fast, is the close collaboration between government and the private sector, and also the financial institution. So if you ask me about what is the secret for increasing for leveraging the digital economy, I would suggest there are 3 elements. First is the leadership. Second is close collaboration between government, private sector, and the financial sector. 2 weeks ago, we come up with a new scheme that is, how do we give credits to the SMEs, those who need a loan. So we come up with an idea with the e-commerce and as well with the with the state-owned state-owned bank to come up with a 300 million loan. That will be this 300 million US dollar loan, around that figure. That will be disbursed to 1 million small medium enterprises until the end of the year. So this is, I think, the digital economy is promising, yes, but we still have challenges, especially on the digital talent. I think the world is having a deficit of good digital talent. Now the question is for how Indonesia, how UK and Indonesia can work together, collaborate on the digital talent, and how do we can use the large market of Indonesia for promoting prosperity and stability. And I'd like to show you one more slide. Can you move to the other slide? Next slide. Next one. Next one. Next one. Right, the other one. Next one. The e-commerce, right? Go on. Oh, next one. I know Veronica told us that we have to be careful with the using of the time, but I want to show you one pertinent slide. Next one. Right, this is what I want to show you, the digital economy opportunities, that there's still opportunity to move forward. There are more than 155 million internet users. They are mainly in the big cities, and I think if we can leverage the technology, the financial sector, and the educational, the business sector, I think we can leverage this number into higher up. So by 2025, we expect it's $100 billion digital. I think with the COVID-19, we will be able to reach this before 2025. I think Ibu Asti Tokopedia knew that their increase of sales is more than 200–300% in comparison to last year due to COVID-19. So it's a big market. I think we can reach the 130 billion before 2025. I think that will be all from my presentation. Is that we need to work to collaborate. It's not enough government to government, but it has to be government with private sector and also with the financial sector. I think that will be all, Baroness. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Pak Odo, thank you so much, and look forward to. Are you going to be able to stay for the panel?
I will try to make.
Yes, excellent. Perhaps I could just ask you one question before we move on to our other colleagues. Obviously, you've got the most unicorns in the region. You've got the most terrific opportunities, as you've outlined in your slides. But what role has education played? And can we do more from education? We looked at the supply side on SMEs in your presentation, but education, digital education, does that help with the skills gap, for example?
So from the movement of increasing from 8 million to 10 million SMEs to be onboarding, there are 4 elements that need to be addressed. One is about funding. Second is access to market. Third is about promotion, and fourth we found is about education, about training. So basic training, like how do you package your products, how do you promote it, and your question is how education is important. I think it's key of the success, and we see from the COVID-19 some of the producers that they start to market better and to package better. They see their increase of sales. So I don't think the challenge is if there is a will. I think the will is there. It's now how we can give the access to a large number of society who are not only living in the rural, in the urban area, but also the rural area. I think that's the key. The key is how do we open up the access for the society at large. The will, the need is there.
And I think this is very much a fruitful area of partnership. if I might say so, between Indonesia and the UK, because we've obviously been quite ahead on the digital economy. I used to be the digital minister, and the opportunities for digital skills starting right at the bottom. My grandchildren are in the state sector in schools in London, and they learn coding from the age of 5. These kind of small changes can make a huge difference to a society.
I agree. If I might add, Baroness, I used to be the director for the senior Indonesian diplomats, those who are above 40s, Indonesian diplomats. And at that time, I make sure that they learn about coding. And they asked me, we are 40, 50, why do we learn coding? I said, well, that's the new language. That's the new lingua franca. At least you have to understand the logic behind it. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you. Could be a leader across ASEAN for this, actually. Perhaps we put it into the next summit. I'd like to move on and actually now invite Astri Rihani of Tokopedia. This homegrown Indonesia tech company, such a success story, and she's kindly going to tell us about the future, how she sees the future and the acceleration of digital, which the ministers talked about, I think, as a result of COVID. So Astri, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear my voice clearly, Bernice?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Paudo, how are you? Apologize, cannot coming to Banyuwangi. But we still, we always support the program. I think we can move to the next slide. This Indonesia potential, I think Pak Odo already mentioned a lot of the indicators. I think we can move to the next slide. Yeah, well, we see specifically for e-commerce, we see that Indonesia is the most important e-commerce market in the regions because we are the largest and fast growing market currently, which is bigger than the rest of Southeast Asia combined. If you see the graphic between the growth on the scale of the e-commerce, Indonesia is quite within the sweet spot compared to other countries. We are one of the largest single country e-commerce market globally, larger than other major markets in Southeast Asia combined. For example, we are larger than Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Singapore if they combine. So you can imagine the size of the market. Faster growing than other key global e-commerce markets, and e-commerce penetrations in Indonesia is actually similar to China 9 years ago, and we see that the potential is still big to go. Indonesia also a single market with broadly homogeneous custom and no language barriers. So for Tokopedia, for example, we are an e-commerce company who operate only in Indonesia, and our apps using Indonesian language, so we can, understand more and talk more with our customer better. I think that also make us most relevant with their daily needs. Next slide, please. So this is the business model that Tokopedia has. We are the largest e-commerce ecosystem in Indonesia. We connect sellers with online buyers on our platforms by facilitating product discoveries and transactions through comprehensive technology-enabled end-to-end from products and solutions. So if you can see here, Bernice, we are purely C2C marketplace. So we don't do the 1P model where buyer can connect to seller and do the transaction there. And as part of the ecosystem, we do have physical goods and digital goods. So people can buy electricity vouchers, phone vouchers, and they can also pay bills through our platform. We even appointed by the government as the platform that can receive 900 types of taxes. So people can actually buy taxes through our platform. And within the ecosystem, we do have also Mitra Tokopedia. It's a new retail business concept where we empower small shops in the throughout Indonesia, because we know that offline market is still big, and we want to be able to implement Tokopedia technology to empower them. So in small shops in Indonesia, we can have application where the shop owner can easily transact and buy all the stocks for their stores. We have Tokopedia Play as online media, so we broadcast content to increase engagement with our consumers. And we also have offline local services like Bright Story and Parent Story, which we acquired last year. Bright Story is mainly services for wedding, so it ranges from photographer, catering, decorations, and pretty much operates in local areas. And the end-to-end infrastructure also equipped with a fintech and payment network. We have the most complete payment option, I think, throughout the e-commerce platform, working with bank, credit card, debit card. We even have the offline pay points, working with mini market throughout Indonesia. We also have a logistic and fulfillment network where our merchant can use this facility, and we are working with at least 14 logistic partners. And we have the advanced data and technology which enable our sellers achieve more and use our technology to increase their sales. We also use this technology to do the analytical capabilities, so the experience that our consumers has very, very relevant with their choices. Next slide, please. Yeah, now this year we are entering our 11 years of operations of Tokopedia. Our missions still the same when we started back then in a very small office. We want to democratize commerce through technology. You heard about the challenge from Pak Odo, where we are an archipelago countries and the internet penetrations is not widely accepted in every region in Indonesia, especially in the villages. So we believe through technology, all the economy can be spread out. So last year we do the impact analysis on Tokopedia economy. We see that more than 1% economy, Indonesian economy, actually happening in Tokopedia. And we have reached 98% of the Indonesian district. We now have 19 million active users per month. And for our sellers, 98.5% are actually new entrepreneurs. So moms, students, everyone who wants to gain some income, they can easily open up stores in Tokopedia. And we have now 8.6 million merchants joining in the platform. So I think this shows very good indicators where we are one step closer to our missions, and we still have a lot of room to grow because e-commerce penetrations in Indonesia only count for 5% of total retail, compared to China, for example, until 30%. So we see that a lot of opportunity happening in Indonesia. Next slide. Yeah, so this will be a bit of highlight how COVID-19 impact e-commerce and tech industry in Indonesia. I know I don't have much time, so I will just highlight some of the key points. First one, the COVID-19, of course, impact across technology sub-vertical varies. So we see that a positive impact happening in the category of food delivery, software, video gaming, and social segment, while negative impact also happening with the industry that require people to move around and cannot stay at home. For example, ride sharing, travel, accommodations, and etc. And we see also consumer adoption curve for online e-commerce is accelerated. As you can see from Pak Odo's presentation, this push people to use technology more, to register their store in our platform, or even our user, they start to, fulfilling their needs through Tokopedia. And this also an opportunity for online commerce players to capture a larger share of merchants. I think this is the time where Indonesia small medium enterprise really on board on online platform. We now have a campaign with the government, and within 1.5 months, I think we managed to onboard 300,000 merchants, and you see that from the last 10 years, we can only onboard 6.5 Indonesian merchants, and less than 1 year, our number already increased to 8 million. So there are 2 million additional merchants coming to the platform within less than a year. So I think this is show that the pandemic situation really make the digital adoptions accelerate more.
Yeah.
Next slide, please. This should be the last slide. I think I want to share an interesting figure that happening in our platform during the COVID-19. We have this data on March 2020. So 3 most favorite categories in our platform is health, of course, because people need to have the hand sanitizers, masks, and everything. Household. People stay at home and explore new hobbies, cooking, from water purifying, and they start taking care of their houses as well, and also food and beverages. Even we see, we sold like more than 100 tons of meat through our platform, and we see that numbers of sellers in health and personal care is increased 2.5 times. And the transaction also grow almost 3 times. So I think that the figure shows that actually there are a lot of opportunity in Indonesia, and Tokopedia is the heart of the digital transformations. And yeah, we're looking forward for the future to come. That's all, Bernice. I hope I fulfill my 4 minutes time.
That was absolutely excellent, and especially that last slide, which summed up, I think, brilliantly the COVID effect for our audience. Yeah. Please, audience, remember that you can ask questions, so do send them in, and we'll move on now, if we may. Is Stephen going next? Or
sure.
Is it Stephen?
No, we've got Bernie.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid we seem to have got Stephen's slides up, but Bernie, maybe you're not having slides. Perhaps I could introduce you, because you're our decacorn of Gojek, and I think you're there in Jakarta, and you're VP for Public Policy and Government Relations. I mean, Gojek is absolutely fascinating. Indonesia's first unicorn, and obviously first decacorn, and focusing on the ride-hailing, the food delivery, the finance, but you actually lots of services. And of course, you operate across ASEAN, where we're very interested in making that a greater region with more synergies. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your experience there in places like Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. I know you started with a very small number of services. Now you've got 20, so you're an inspiration to other entrepreneurs setting up. So please, without more ado, Bernie and Mustafa, over to you. Bernie, we can't hear you. You're on mute. You need to press the little green button on the right at the top.
Right at the top.
There you are. We can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Baroness, for the introduction, and it's a great honor for me to be speaking on this great event. I don't have a slide prepared, but I'd like to run through some of the bigger pictures of what's driving Gojek growth and where we are now in terms of how we have developed and what we see what's coming ahead, especially during this challenging time for all of us. So as Paolo also mentioned earlier, it's the growth of the internet industry or the startup ecosystem in Indonesia cannot be separated from the support that the government has provided in terms of driving infrastructure development. And one notable thing that I would like to highlight is that even though internet penetration is only about 64%, but we're talking about a fairly huge population in Indonesia, which is roughly about 260 million. And so that is in itself a huge market for any companies operating and entering Indonesia to invest, for example. In this case, what's driving the penetration of internet in Indonesia is simply the growth of smartphone usage, right? People who have already phones moving up to adopting smartphones, and therefore telco companies investing in 4G. That is really driving internet connectivity and allowing for digital services to be delivered across the country, essentially. And I think that is a fundamental aspect of what's driving the growth of Indonesian digital industry and platforms such as Tokopedia and Gojek. And from there on, I think that's where we started out. But even before that, in 2000, how we started out as a company, right? As some may recall, that in 2011 we did not even have an app. We didn't start out as a smartphone app. So we started out as a call center. It's very on the ground and trying to connect drivers, in this case motorcycle drivers, with prospective consumers who want to use the services. So it was a matter of matchmaking the drivers that are in Jakarta, and then trying to what we call motorcycle taxis, who are usually found in big cities across Indonesia. They usually hang out in certain areas and trying to find consumers. We help them connect them to the consumers with our call centers, and that's how we started out. It was a modest operation at the beginning, but it really took off when we adopted digital tools. So this is a classic example of us starting out as a small, medium-sized enterprise offline and then becoming online, right? Using the technology that was available in 2015. Obviously, everybody in big cities already had smartphones, and we were able to then create an application that you could download on your iPhone or your Android phone. And that was sort of like the beginning where our growth really exploded. So if you were to ask what's the secret of our fast growth, is the fact that we transform ourselves from being an offline SME into becoming an online SME. And that really helped us to become a unicorn within a span of about 2 years. And within 2017, we really expanded. We launched new services. Other than the motorcycle, we added car. So it's also Go Car. In addition to Go Ride, we also added financial services. So you could pay for the rides using Go Pay. And that further then enabled us to expand into the region. So by 2018, we expanded to Vietnam and Singapore. By 2019, we further expanded to Thailand, and we became Indonesia's first decacorn by 2019. And it was also a time where we rebranded our logo. Now what you see, the logo is sort of like a symbol of the many services that we provide, with the aim to essentially help ease daily frictions of consumers. So it could be on the financial side, it could be on the mobility side, logistic. So that's sort of like how we see ourselves. So starting out with a call center in 2011 into a decacorn with multiple services across Southeast Asia in 2019. So that's sort of like taking a quick look at the historical progression of Gojek. But now we are in 2020, and what is it in store and what's happening right now? I think it's no mystery that companies everywhere are struggling, perhaps with the exception of some digital companies. But it is a challenge for all of us to adopt to this new normal, in a sense, right? And one of the key feature of this is the need for physical distancing, the need for contactless services. And I think that's where digital platforms, including Gojek, play an important role in helping companies, especially small and medium-sized companies to make that shift from being offline to online, just as we did back then in 2015. But for reasons that are quite different this time around, I think the main driver for this is not necessarily growth, but it is in order to survive. For a lot of companies, for a lot of small, medium-sized companies, it is a matter of survival, in which they are trying to find new customers that are usually coming to their stores, and now they have to find them online, because that's where people can still deliver and provide and receive services without having to come in contact. And I think this is something that we are working closely with the government in order to facilitate this transformation from, especially for a small, medium-sized enterprise, into becoming a more digitized outfit. And so for the past few months during the pandemic, Gojek itself actually has also transformed in the sense that we have doubled down on our 3 core service areas, which is the transportation side, the GoRide and GoCar, and food, in particular food delivery, and also on financial services. So all of these 3 puts the emphasis on being able to provide those services without without having to compromise the physical distancing requirement and health protocols. So it's not just that we're working with the government to help SMEs in order to survive the pandemic and help SMEs to make the shift towards a more digitized platform, but Gojek itself has also somewhat changed in terms of where we double down on our services and see that these core services are where we find strength and where we see sustainability going forward. So going forward again, the main discussion right now is for us to find opportunities, and as you know, we repeatedly mentioned, it's the SMEs that we see a lot of growth in. As Paolo also mentioned in his presentation, the numbers of SMEs that have digitized is very low. I think was it 9 out of 100 or so. So there's still a lot of growth opportunity there, where we can see what kind of services would make sense to be put on a digital platform. Not necessarily meaning that they have to be on Gojek, but we have the ability to just given our scale and our size, we have the ability to bring those SMEs with access to our customers, or access to our merchants and access to our drivers. Just as a note, we have about 500,000 merchants. The majority of them, about 90% of them, are SMEs, and we have almost or more than 1 million people that are actually drivers. So it's a huge number. The scale is there. And the question is, how do we bring the scale to a point where it benefits the broader ecosystem, not just Gojek, but in general SMEs, and how we can therefore together develop the digital economy. I think I will stop there, just for a brief introduction on where we're seeing things are heading, and just a quick overview of Gojek itself. Thank you, Bernice.
Bernie, thank you. Thank you for a very thoughtful idea. I particularly like the point about the contactless being the driver of huge change and growth, which we've seen obviously in the UK as well. Lastly, a very good friend, if I may, introduced to the UK-ABC, Stephen Marcelino of Accenture UK. He's the Asian capital market lead for Accenture, based here in London. But obviously being a leading Indonesian, knows the area well, and actually he's also currently driving Brexit strategy engagement for the within Accenture UK. Stephen, I suppose you'll be able to give very good advice to the hundreds of people on our call to what UK companies should do to take part in the Indonesian digital journey driven by this vast population and widespread demographics. Over to you, Stephen.
Cool. Thanks, Bernice, Neville Roll, for the opportunity. Thanks to UK-ABC, IIPC London, and Indonesian Embassy in London for inviting me. Certainly, it's great to hear amazing success stories from Tokopedia and Gojek, and what I'll do is going to perhaps do a little bit convincing around what UK businesses and those of us who are in London could really do to partake in Indonesia digital journey. So what I'm going to talk is, what does the 4 unicorns, one decacorn mean in Indonesia? How does that position Indonesia globally? Then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the secret recipe behind why I think those of you who haven't really considered Indonesia should really consider it today, and what it takes really to partake in this digital journey, as Lucy mentioned. So going to the next slide, please. With the 4 unicorns and 1 decacorn, Indonesia is now ranked at 7th highest numbers of unicorns in the world, and you could see here there are only 3 other Asian countries that has that many unicorns. This is obviously an analysis Accenture did with the 300 or over 300 unicorns they have in the world, means that Indonesia also surpassed the unicorns that France and Switzerland has combined. If you go to the next slide, please. In terms of the funding received by these unicorns, you know, they are valued for a reason, and Indonesia's ranked the sixth in the world in terms of the funding received. What we're seeing, however, majority of this funding actually comes from North America, Asia, means Japan and China's money. And it seems EMEA and Europe is a bit lagging behind its American, Japanese, and Chinese partners when it comes to investing in tech landscape. So there is a lot of opportunities here. And if we can go to the next slide, please. The internet users penetration has been mentioned throughout, but what I just want to emphasize that the rate that was shown here, over 170 plus internet users with about 68% in the active internet users. These were pre-COVID-19, or this data were captured at the beginning of around February 2020. Doesn't surprise us, by the end of the year, the number will jump. The number both in terms of those who are now online as internet users, and you could see here, Indonesia internet users are already 3 times the size of UK. So if you're operating in the UK already, there is an opportunity to you know, not only double the size of that, but to really make it 3 times bigger. And as Asri mentioned, the size here is already much bigger than the last 4 ASEAN countries combined, from Singapore to Vietnam, for example. Good. Next, I mean, the internet users, as we mentioned about, but can I just double click on the SMEs, right? Because for many of us in the UK, SMEs are, so we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah, SMEs are somewhat a concept that, yes, you know, there is this SME segments, you know, they are attractive, but for Indonesia specifically, SMEs plays a huge role, right? Over there are almost 60 million SMEs in Indonesia. They are driving 60% of Indonesia's GDP. They have 7% of the workforce, and they have double-digit revenue growth, right? Last time we checked, it's about 15% revenue growth pre-COVID-19. And because of COVID, 89% of them now turning into digital, may not be on board in e-commerce yet, but they're using social media, digital marketing. And what we heard from our last ASEAN SME surveys last month, about 43% of them, of the owners and the directors of these SMEs, are intending to increase their digital spending. Now, that really creates a lot of opportunities, not just being, you know, opportunity for them to onboard to the likes of Gojek and Tokopedia, but what really means for UK providers means that there is suddenly all of these SMEs that were used to be offline turn to be online, that may demand some sort of product and services, and they can also then too provide their products and services to the UK. So the digital movement here is really doubling down. So we can go to the next one. I'm going to talk, you know, talk about more the retail, SMEs, and now this is the policymakers. There is now a shift globally, UK, Europe, and including emerging markets and Indonesia. They're turning the unprecedented fiscal stimulus from rescue measures, protecting jobs, supporting healthcare, job retention. In Indonesia, obviously, there is a wide range of stimulus package announced by Indonesia government and Minister of Finance. They're now turning into recovery. Just similar with the UK with a build plan, the EU with Next Generation EU. Indonesia is also preparing the National Economic Recovery Plan. In 2020, that price tag is about 47 billion. The 2021 amount is not being disclosed yet, but it wouldn't surprise us if the number of that stimulus will be much higher than $50 billion, where as part of the recovery, yes, there will be infrastructure development, but it will, I think digital will be front and center, just similar with what we've seen in the EU and China as part of the new infrastructure push. If you go to next, now this is the slide that I want to spend time a little bit on. How can we, most of you in the UK, partaking in this, is this amazing, immense digital journey in the post-pandemic world? So I think just quickly, I think UK businesses who have not yet, entered Indonesia should really get started today to strive for more. And there are 4 things to watch out for. Now, getting started, I think many UK companies like to be in a comfort zone, tapping into Indonesia from Singapore or from Hong Kong or from elsewhere in the regional hub. My suggestion, and this is something that a lot of the C-suite clients that I advise on, is to tap Indonesia from within, not from the outside. From the inside, really. Try to get the gist and really have a long-term commitment. And to localize, to level up. At country level, and Indonesia is actually not a homogeneous country. There are a lot of nuances at the municipality, at the provincial level, the ethnicities. People just do different things. So if you only tap in Indonesia from Jakarta, probably that's not enough to really localize your product and services to suit Indonesian demand. And obviously, Indonesian language will be a must. And set up ecosystem partnership. Probably you wouldn't be as far as Tokopedia with amazing ecosystem partnership that they have set up. But consider not only the unicorns and the decacorns, but the SOEs, state-owned enterprises that are super powerful in Indonesia, very different with the UK landscape. Some of the local conglomerates, the likes of Lipo and the likes of these very old school players. How can you be really joined up, and other companies in Indonesia? Striving for more. What we're seeing in Indonesia and China, somewhat similar, that this winner takes all kind of trends that we see. So make strategic bets to be on the right side. I think the second point on the striving for more is important because there will be a lot of cross currents, a lot of challenges you see. It's a rather complex market. But I think if you are able to continually course correct based on re-baseline your assumption after you get to know your market and how the consumer is actually reacting to your value propositions, that always course correct, you will find you will enjoy Indonesia dynamism and play the long game, as I mentioned earlier, because it is complex to operate. But once you settle, you will reap a lot of benefits there. And there are 4 things to watch out for. The National Economic Recovery Plan that should be announced soon. So I think something that everyone will be tuning in. What are those packages, and whether the green agenda and digital agenda will be part of that. I'm not going to spend too much on it, but happy to talk a little bit about on that later and during the Q&A. Okay. The new capital city in Borneo is predicted to be the first smart city that will implement 5G technology. I think something to watch out for. Financing needs for a lot of unicorns was something that I think a lot of them will eventually go for IPO. I think this is a real chance for City of London to position that they could be the go-to partner for many tech companies in Indonesia to raise capital. And lastly, I would always advocate for a stronger relations in terms of technology and innovation with UK and Indonesia. I think FinTech Bridge would be something that the industry would welcome. And on top of that, cybersecurity cooperation, something that UK is superb in this area. And I think that something that even Indonesia will benefit a lot. So I think to that end,
Stephen, I'm going to cut you off if I may, because we haven't got much time, and I've already got a great many questions which I'm keen to put to the panel. So if I may, I'd like to move straight on to questions and perhaps start with Minister Pak Odo. And we've got some questions on SMEs, which I think you'll be interested in. Is the Minister there? In which case, I will, if I may, ask the question to you, Bernie. A couple of questions on SMEs. One from Alan Jackson. Is the lack of SMEs online in Indonesia a technical issue or something else? And what impact will urbanization have on access to the internet? And then the second one is the digital economy figures are very impressive. The opportunity is very large. The UK has 5.6 million SMEs with less than 10 people, and many are keen to seek overseas markets. Are there opportunities for them in Indonesia? And that's from Paul Morby, OBE. Bernie, over to you.
Thank you, Bernice. So to answer the first question, I think there are a number of factors playing into this. Obviously, technology definitely is a factor. Some SMEs don't have access to the internet, mainly in eastern parts of Indonesia, which is relatively underdeveloped compared to the western part. connectivity remains an issue, access to internet is essentially. But the other item I would raise, or the other fact I would raise, is that there still is a traditional thinking of what SMEs are and how they should operate, or how the business of SMEs operate. SMEs in Indonesia is a very loosely defined term in a sense. We largely consider them as informal sector. They are not regulated in a sense, so it's very loose, and their path towards digitization is always somewhere where the companies have the solutions for them provided. It's very difficult, I suppose, for SMEs to create their own path towards digitization, let's say starting up from building a website. Of course, numbers of urban entrepreneurs start out that way, where they perhaps start out with selling items on social media and then progress towards something bigger. But the bulk of SMEs that we're talking about that have yet to digitize, they have a very still traditional approach to doing business, which is actually meeting consumers face to face, producing stuff at home and then selling it at the market, right? I think that's a matter where education plays a critical role, and I think we are, I wouldn't say on track, but we are clearly going in that direction, primarily because of COVID-19, where suddenly the importance of going digital becomes very clear for healthy reason, and therefore the next question is how can they utilize this for expanding their business, right, or for surviving in this extreme condition. Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry, Baroness, can you repeat the second question again?
It was a question about SMEs in the UK. Is there any scope for them coming and investing in Indonesia? Are there opportunities for them? And I suppose one of the areas, for example, would be education, digital transformation, cyber. I mean, there's various things, if you know the UK at all, there are various sort of skill sets where potentially you might be able to have a partner, but obviously starting local, which I think was the point that both you and Stephen made, because that you've got to have a local colour in these markets, as I know, having operated a big UK company across ASEAN.
Absolutely. I would also agree definitely with what Stephen has said earlier. I think there's a lot of opportunities here, but for SMEs in general, the recommendation would probably be to team up with a local partner. It can be very difficult for a single SME to navigate the Indonesian landscape, the regulatory landscape, the markets, and so somebody who would come in here with little knowledge will find it difficult and challenging to grow and set a base here. But teaming up with a local company that has already the right access, that has already a good understanding of the Indonesian market, would be a start. And I think the government would be extremely helpful in finding those opportunities with matching with local companies or through other associations that are respective of those industries.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to a couple of questions to Astrid, if I may, and then I'll come on to Stephen last, and then give you an all opportunity to say some final words, because we're running out of Astrid. You're very popular, lots of questions for you. One from To Su-ung. How does Tokopedia make sure that consumers are not exposed to the sale of illicit products, including counterfeits? And then a question from about handling goods returns. Is this a large problem and a big cost to your business or to your merchants? And is there a way you can transfer these e-commerce returns into cash? So a couple of really basic questions about your operations. And then a much more strategic question. Have you considered an Anglo-Indonesian brokering service for international companies to work with Indonesian companies through your platform, picking up the conversation I was having with Bernie? So Astrid, over to you.
Yeah, first, I think being a C2C marketplace, the risk of our sellers, selling some counterfeit products or products that not meet with the government requirements will always be there. Therefore, we have several steps to make or to reduce the risk of our consumers to expose to that kind of products. First, we work together with the government, with the authority, so we know what kind of type of product that we need to watch out. And from there, we can use our technology, for example, to sort of some of the keywords and block off the dangerous keywords, to at least filter the type of products that probably will be fall under prohibited goods. And internally, we have a special task force or internal team who on daily basis monitor the platform and see whether some merchants do some suspicious activity, and therefore if it's proven, we usually moderate the stores. And we also have our consumers channel, where brand owners or merchants who feels that their products being counterfeited can report to us, and we will also follow that up. And if it's proven again, we will also moderate the stores. On the second question, I'm not quite clear, Bernice. What is the question was? It was about the cash of...
Yeah, about the handling of goods that get returned. Obviously, it's a big issue here in the UK, where people buy things online. They don't want them. They buy 3 pairs of shoes and send 2 of the pairs back.
Oh.
Is this a big issue for you or for your merchants?
Yeah, I think one of the good thing about Tokopedia is that we provide a safe and secure transaction. So it will be both safe for the merchants as well as for the consumers. So in very practical terminology, for example, if I buy some shoes, for example, from Tokopedia merchants, the system will automatically detect that the transaction is done within 2 days. So within that days, the consumers can file a complaint, or the merchant can also file a complaint. So we have a system where consumers and sellers can communicate. And if some, for example, different SKU being sent, they can return it, and then the platform will facilitate that. So yes, it is an issue, and I think that's the beauty of the marketplace, right? Because that thing cannot be happen in social commerce. So yeah, I think we have the system in place for that, Bernice.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question is obviously about brokering and bringing international companies in. Is that something that you've thought of?
Yeah, not yet at the moment, I'm afraid. We are still focusing on e-commerce.
So that perhaps we could talk to you about that going forward. Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious to have merchants from other countries on your platforms potentially.
Yeah, but we don't do cross borders, and I think because we also believe that by having our local merchants, that create opportunity for them to reach the Indonesian market as well, because as I said, the penetration is still 5%. If we open cross borders, of course, it makes our SMEs will head-to-head compete with other global merchants, and we don't think that this kind of business will be beneficial for the country as well, and also for the betterment of our SMEs.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think it's a longer conversation. When I'm in Indonesia, yeah. I look to take further with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Stephen a question? Because Mark Beresford is very interested in whether any chance we're going to see some of the great unicorn offerings in the UK as part of expansion by Indonesian countries. We've already heard from Gojek how they've expanded across Southeast Asia in Europe. I mean, is there any scope for that? And another question I've got, which you might want to comment on, which is about the attitude to education and online education in particular. Joanne Whitlock is interested in that.
So, sure. Mark raised an interesting point around internationalization, and I'm going to touch on 2 ways, right? We need to look into it. This is Indonesian unicorns entering new markets. Obviously, Gojek has done it, focusing in Southeast Asia, whereas Tokopedia has not, as well as UK national unicorns, the likes of Revolut and amazing tech firms homegrown in the UK, and now have entered new markets elsewhere. In particular, within the ASEAN context, they've entered Singapore and elsewhere. Now, I think there is certainly a strong opportunities for these unicorns, because once you've reached certain growth domestically, for you to go to the next series of funding, it makes sense for you to tap into further and further users and to grow that potential earnings. Now, let me start with the flow within the unicorns, Indonesian unicorns, the UK. I think it seems the Indonesian companies overall, and this you can see it from the local conglomerates, and they're kind of comfortable with Indonesia. They're comfortable with how big is the market. So probably Gojek is one of the very few companies that will enter new markets outside of Indonesia. I think certainly we would advocate for unicorns and leading firms in Indonesia to be more aggressive and to start entering markets outside of ASEAN, including into the UK and Europe. Now, what we've seen with some of what the Chinese and Indian companies have done, they do some acquisition and trying to acquire some of the really hot IPs and technologies that may be developed elsewhere. And I think this is something, the market entry can mean a lot of things. So I would actually encourage for Indonesian tech firms to be empowered to be looking into those. Now, another great benefits for Indonesian firms to entering the UK, for example, is for the financing needs. Once you internationalize and then open up to a much larger capital pool, then the opportunities are limitless. You could follow the Alibaba route, doing IPO in New York. I mean, there is no really stopping a great tech firms to not only maybe list it domestically, but also have a dual listing elsewhere. Now, these are something that can be facilitated by a UK-Indonesia technology bridges, for example. A regulated construct that's already there between UK and Singapore, UK and Hong Kong, and so on. Now, on the other way, UK unicorns has absolutely, I mean, you'd be missing out on Indonesia and the wider ASEAN, this digital giant, if UK unicorns are not already considering how to enter Indonesia. A number of fintech unicorns that I'm speaking with are really considering white labeling. So using their core platform, tech platform, and partnering with a number of banks in Singapore and Indonesia on how they can actually roll out their products. There are so many things that I think the UK unicorns can take. Now, on the online education, Indonesia, I think Bernie and Asker has mentioned this. I think Indonesia is not particularly homogeneous, especially in the eastern part of Indonesia. They are, I mean, I would call it not only, they have a huge digital divide. Many of them may not have a remote, they're quite remote, don't really have access to internet. So I think that is probably the danger and probably the obstacles within the digital education, online education. But I think around the urban areas, which I think UK companies and UK SMEs should really pay closer attention to the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 cities, all of them urban, most of them are connected to the internet. I think there is a huge opportunities there. And the education minister, along with some of the EdTech, so education-based technology, are rolling out those online education, as many were not able to go to school, and all of that are good things, I suppose. Again, Stephen, another great thing.
Thank you very much indeed. We're nearing the end, so I've got a couple of questions which I'm going to give to Bernie, then ask him if he got any final comments, and then ask Astrid the same, and then I'll try to sum up, including emphasising a couple of points from the Minister, who I think has had a very busy day today. We were lucky to get him. Bernie, the questions are, one's from Teguh Prastowo, and it's about digital infrastructure to support core operations. Should we be introducing SMEs to some, digital software to support the rollout of these operations? And then the second question is from Steve Etok. How are most online transactions carried out? And are credit cards in widespread use, or has there been a jump in the technology? If you could talk a little bit more about those, and then any final comments, Bernie.
Sure, thank you, Baroness. I think for the first question, the more pertinent question is whether there's a business model that is suitable for these SMEs. And I think that's a question that a lot of people, a lot of SMEs are struggling with in terms of, okay, I understand that I need to go digital, but how do I do this that makes business-wise sense? And once that question is answered, then obviously the next question is what tools are available to make that happen. And agree that software obviously plays a very important role. And so introduction of the right softwares to these SMEs would be a step in helping them go digital. And for that part, Gojek itself is providing our merchants with a variety of productivity tools as well. So we understand that merchants that are coming online for the first time may struggling with managing the finances, struggling to manage the inventory. So we have certain apps within our apps that help them to manage all those little aspects in order to run a business online. So that helps with managing a digital operation. But the more bigger or underlying question is the business model question, right? What would be the right business model for a variety of SMEs to go online? I think on the second question is about online transactions. I think the answer is yes and no when it comes to credit cards. Yes, credit cards still plays an important role in online transaction, but credit cards have been limited somewhat to urban consumers who have, who are bankable, who have access to bank accounts and in that way already part of the financial system in a sense. But these days, the fact that you already have a smartphone allows you to do online transactions without credit cards. And I think a lot of people are going that way and bypassing credit cards altogether. Although, in credit cards themselves are reinventing, they're trying to find ways to maintain a space in that space. But overall, for a lot of people who have no access to financial services, but have access to a smartphone and connectivity to internet, they would go straight to something along like an e-wallet, or just transferring from one bank account to another bank account without the use of credit cards. And a lot of e-commerce stores provide those options. So there's a lot of more options available for people to conduct transactions these days.
Okay, thank you. And Astrid, any final points from you? Because
yeah.
Just one.
Sure,
one.
I think.
50.
Sure. I think
I'm going to pass over to Astrid because we're now pretty well on the hour.
Okay.
Just in case she's got anything,
Sure.
any final points before I summarize.
I think now Indonesian digital economy is at a very interesting phase. I think we see that a lot of acceleration happen in terms of adoption, and we also see that the government see this an opportunity of Indonesia's engine growth, especially for SMEs, to make them survive and of course thrive in these difficult situations. So more and more I see the program and the seriousness of the government to build more infrastructure, especially on the villages where most of the SMEs located also. So I think it's very exciting and interesting time for us here in Indonesia.
That's a very good note on which to end. And I'd like to thank all of the panel and Pak Odo for your contributions. We could have gone on for another hour, and I'd like to thank UK-ABC and our partners today. I should just say, I think, 3 things in summing up. First, really to reiterate what the Minister said. I thought he gave us a great summary of and he's obviously very dynamic. He emphasized leadership, and he emphasized collaboration with the private sector, with the financial sector. And he talked about the program of £300 million for SMEs. So there's money there to finance and make the things we've been talking about happen. And then he talked of the challenge of digital talent and of education, which I'm sure we're all going to come back to at future ASEAN events. Astrid, you gave us a fascinating insight into how COVID has changed spending habits online, the healthcare the household and hobbies, and of course the food and drink. And then Bernie, you talked so intelligently about moving from being an SME to being a huge operation at Gojek, and the key issues that we face on digitalization. And then finally, Stephen, thank you so much. 7th highest creator of unicorns in the world in Indonesia, a vast country, huge opportunity. And your advice is try and sort of tackle things from the inside. So, you know, this is a cultural point that's so important in ASEAN. You've got to work with local partners and so on. And I think that is something where, you know, we can all work together much better. So thank you all very much indeed. And look forward to seeing you in future. We're having a summer break here in the UK for the next few weeks, but look forward to seeing you all again in September. And thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Bernice.
That ends today's seminar.
Astrid.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you,
Bernie.
Astrid. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Bernie.
Nice to meet you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Alan.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.